It takes time to blow, so I don't get upset. Cause I'm on it like a bonnet on a pioneer. And I'm the king like Crockett on his wild frontier. To my peers taking shots, you can be my guest. Because the F won't rest till I'm known as the best. I see fire, I see rain, yeah. 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 No more changing horses in the middle of the stream, chasing dreams full steam, earn esteem with the team. We bringing meat to the table, putting marrow in your bones, to your hands, shoulders, knees and toes, eyes, ears, mouth and nose. We tickling your senses you ain't even know you had, so get your hands in the air like you was hailing the cab. And if you're down in the dumps and it ain't going swell, here's a little anecdote that'll do you well. It takes more fire and rain to nourish a forest, to make it flourish, make it grow and get that timber, the tower, deriving power from the sun and putting roots to soil, till that seed that you sow becomes a mighty sequoia. So it's a given, I'm not gonna give in, I just keep on living. No, I never quit cause I'm driven, and when I'm done I'll pass the mic to my next of kin. Until we meet again, I'll be dropping demos from my coffin. I see fire, I see rain, yeah. 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 I see fire, I see rain,
And welcome back to the Spicy Sports Show with Sam Cerrone, coming to you live from Minneapolis, Minnesota. So almost 7 o'clock here in the Midwest, almost 8 out on the East Coast, almost 5 out on the West Coast. So talking about soccer here, again, a lot to talk about. Within the next couple weeks, you're going to have the Copa America Centenario, the 100-year anniversary. That's crazy. And the U.S. is participating in it along with some CONCACAF teams and, of course, the best in South America that you do have, which should be really interesting to see here. And I'll cover that. I'm going to go over who I think is going to win. On top of that, we also have the European Championships. A lot of good players. It's funny because after the Champions League, there's usually a good month break or month and a half before soccer starts to kick off the preseason again, just to see what's going to go on for next season. And realistically, it's a sad time, but this summer with these two tournaments, it's as if we don't have a break. And on top of that, there's the Olympics, which is always a good thing. So there's going to be a lot of soccer over the course of the next couple months during the summer, which is great. And, of course, we do have MLS. Not that I'm banging on hard MLS, but, these are the leagues and tournaments that people talk about. And, of course, again, I have a Timbers tattoo, so let's be honest. But the Timbers haven't really done as hot due to a lot of injuries. It's just been really, really tough for them. I do hope that they bounce back. I think that they will. But, again, I digress. So, as I said, we're going to talk about some of the big tournaments. Again, we're almost wrapping up club football here. So the first match I'm going to talk about is the FA Cup final. Crystal Palace, a team many did not expect to be there, and Manchester United. Manchester United is a club that, again, usually wins the EPL year in and year out. But since Sir Alex Ferguson left, it's been a challenge trying to replace a legend like that arguably probably one of the top 5 managers ever. Just with the consistency in how he dominated the EPL. In the years since, there have been 3 different champions. Manchester City, Chelsea, and now Leicester City. And I've talked about their miracle run that they went through. So it's interesting now, the changing of the guard, that Manchester United doesn't have Sir Alex Ferguson anymore. And along with that, the talent level has dipped considerably. But Manchester United did come out on top, 2-1. Jesse Lingard hit an extra time winner, and as 10-man Manchester United came behind to beat Crystal Palace 2-1 in the FA Cup final. It's a tournament that I expected Manchester United to win. I didn't, but again, Crystal Palace. It's interesting because some of the teams that you don't expect to get in the top 4. You know, if you're not the Manchester United, you're not a Liverpool, you're not a Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester City. You know, if you're not a big club like that, top 4 isn't as realistic. Isn't a realistic expectation. So trying to get a cup in other tournaments and trying to focus your energy on there while also not trying to get relegated at the same time is a challenge. But for Crystal Palace, they were able to do that and get all the way to the final. And they were leading in this one. Jason Ponchian scored a 78th minute goal before Juan Mata scored a tying goal about 9 minutes from full time. Manchester United goes down to 10 men after Chris Smalling gets ejected, and then again Jesse Lingard scoring the game winner. And again, for Manchester United, it's getting 1 trophy out of this season, considering how their lineups went and how Louis van Gaal really just mismanaged, I think, this lineup. There's a lot of potential here. Letting Chicharito go and going to the Bundesliga and honestly, he's been dominating over there thus far. Arguably one of the top 5 players, maybe top 3 in the Bundesliga this season in terms of impact for their clubs. Yeah, I mean, and Manchester United, again, they have a lot of injuries, but they have also a lot of expectations. This isn't a club that settles for something like the FA Cup and calls it a successful season. No, that's not who they are. They're a club that expects titles and big ones, like the EPL, like the Champions League, and for Van Gaal not to deliver on either of those and to have to settle for something like this, it's unfortunate, really. The Netherlands, that was his last team when they coached in the World Cup in 2014, led them to a 3rd place finish, very impressive. And then taking over the club here for Moyes, you expected a lot more. And now it's coming the wire again. Its sources are confirming it. It seems it's going to be official here. Jose Mourinho, the former head coach at Chelsea, is now going to be the head coach at Manchester United. So Louis van Gaal looks like it's on his way out. So it should be pretty interesting to see how things go from there. I think Mourinho is a guy who, again, is very hot-headed, has a way of, how he wants to do things. But at the same time, again, if the results don't go his way, it's pretty hard to put up with a guy like him who's very demanding and has a lot of expectations from his players. And again, he has to deal with a lot of high club expectations. And a club, again, like I said, Manchester United is a club that does not settle for titles like the FA Cup. They don't. They get cups like the Champions League, like the EPL. That is their mission. But speaking of teams who get these type of trophies on a regular basis, Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund, the DFB Pokal, the German Cup final, it actually was a better game than I thought it would be, to be honest with you. Bayern Munich was the heavier favorite going into this matchup here. Borussia Dortmund finished up pretty well, finished second in the Bundesliga, but Bayern Munich ran away with this. Just took a while for them to put the championship to rest, and they finally came out on top in the Bundesliga, and they also won this on penalty kicks. It was a goalless game. 120 minutes, nothing happened. Then 4-3 on penalty kicks for Bayern Munich. Now, for Pep Guardiola, this is his last game at Bayern Munich because he's now going to Manchester City starting next season. And like I said, for Bayern Munich, these are cups that are expected. Like Manchester United, these are cups that you expect to win. You do expect to win the Bundesliga, and they did. You do expect to win the DFB Pokal, and they did. the reason why Pep Guardiola was brought in from Barcelona a couple of years ago, I think about 3 years ago now, is to win the Champions League. And as I said before, again, most managers on most clubs to win two cups in a single season, that's great. That's absolutely a phenomenal season. But for a club like Bayern Munich, which is probably one of the top five, no doubt top five, potentially top three clubs in the world, I'd say behind Barcelona and Real Madrid. Top three. And in the 3 years that Guardiola has been here, lost to Spanish clubs, Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Atletico Madrid in the semifinals of the Champions League. So again, while Guardiola, again, look, great season overall. He was brought in to win the UEFA Champions League, and he did not do that. So as I said before, it is a failure in my opinion. Again, other people may say otherwise. But again, he was strictly brought in there for that reason and that reason only. Anything else, in my opinion, is a failure. And hopefully at Manchester City, again, that's the goal there. The goal is to be a consistent EPL contender. But the goal is over there is definitely to win the championship, no question about it. Moving on from Germany to Italy here, Juventus. What a season they've had. Cleaning house as well in Serie A, and of course in the Italia Coppa final as well. Extra time goal needed by Alvaro Morata, the former man from Real Madrid. 1-0 final for AC Milan. A double for Juventus this season. It's been pretty good for them. Again, they're a team that is on the upswing of things. I think that they have a lot of potential here. Pogba is going to be one of the biggest discussions in this offseason. Is he going to stay with Juventus, or is he going to go to a club like a Real Madrid, like a Manchester United? Is someone going to pick him up and say, hey, this is going to be his moment to move to a big club? And we're going to find out how well he plays, and we're going to find out a little bit more about how he plays on the national stage in the European Championships. And just to give a little preview, I do think France is one of the better teams to win this tournament. They're going to be a stacked team as well. Speaking of France, going from there, PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, led by Zlatan Ibrahimovic, his final game as a player with PSG, defeats Marseille 4-2. Not even close in the French Coupe de France final. It wasn't even close. Blas Matuidi scored in the first 2 minutes of the game. Thauvin scored for Marseille to tie it up. Zlatan put up two goals, and along with one more from Edinson Cavani. Not even close. And then Ibra, look, it's pretty impressive here. Scored his 155th and 156 goals in his 180th match for the club. That's impressive. Second successive domestic treble, which again I think for France and for the roster that they have and considering the money that they have, this is also not a big surprise. They dominated all season. They won their league, I think, by over 40 points, which is insane. They clinched their club, the League One, I think in March, but as well clinched it when they kicked off the beginning of the season back in August. It's ridiculous. But again, this is Ibrahimovic's last game. Where is he going to go next season? Rumors are that he can go to another European club, or he can go to MLS. If he goes to MLS, again, it would be really impressive. I'd love to see that happen, but who knows. And then finally, the last game of the season, we're going to talk about some MLS here. It's rivalry weekend. And the New York Red Bulls, what a show they put on there. 7-0 win over NYCFC, a team that that defeated Portland last week. Right, Phillips, Brace, Alex Moule, Gonzalo Verón, Gideon Ba. What a game that was. 7-0. In a rivalry game, that is ridiculous. That's absolutely insane. 17 shots, 9 on goal, 7 of those going in. Ooh. If you're an NYCFC fan, that's just got to hurt. That is definitely got to hurt. Anyway, that is all I have for soccer here. So we're going to take a short break. When we come back, my final topic of the day. Who should be the next James Bond? There are bets placed on it. I'll tell you who I feel should be the best one. Here we have some more music on